And I might mention that we are recording this so that if you are not interested in being seen in the recording, please, you can stop your video. But of course, we'd love to see you. And I know Lucinda would love to talk with you directly as we progress through our session. I'm Betty Felton. I'm the Vice President of Programs for AAUW in the Danville, Alamo, and Walnut Creek branch. Chris just talked earlier, and we'll speak a little bit about our branch and what we do, and she'll follow me. And I just wanted to welcome everybody tonight. This is the last of our year in terms of programs. And we've had quite a wonderful year with focus on women finding solutions. We found women finding solutions in water and water treatment and water care. And we talked to women in the arts. Trisha Graham on here tonight is one of them. We've talked to and heard from and discussed with women doing all kinds of amazing things. And tonight, you will hear a little more from Monica Witt, who will introduce Lucinda Jackson. But Chris Ritter is going to give you the little spiel about AAUW.
Right. Thanks, Betty. Joanne Quijano, our president, would normally give this information, but she's away vacationing in Mexico tonight, so I'm standing in for her as the past president. My name is Chris Ritter. And for those of you who don't know about AAUW, I wanted to give you just a little insight as to who we are and what we do. It's the American Association of University Women, was formed more than 140 years ago. It was founded in 1881, which I find just amazing that I belong to an organization that has withstood the test of time like this. It was founded by a small group of college graduates who were women who wanted to make it easier for other women to make their way in the world. And they formed this network together. And since that time, it has grown to a network of 170,000 members nationwide. We have some overseas also. We have 1,000 local branches in the United States and 800 college and university partners. So we are a big, widespread group. We're nonprofit, nonpartisan, and our mission is to advance equity for women and girls through research, education, and advocacy. So tonight we're doing an educational program to advance our mission. Our local branch here in Danville, Alamo, and Walnut Creek also sponsors educational programs like this, as well as we fund special scholarships for women to help them complete their educational degrees. And we have a program where we send 8th grade girls to a science camp to make them feel confident in their skills in STEM areas. So they go on and focus in and aren't afraid to focus in STEM and have the confidence. That's been very gratifying. So AAUW membership is a great way to get to know like-minded individuals, I think we find. And we have lots of participant activities that you can participate in, such as our monthly meetings, which we're going to start in September in person. Yay! We also have fundraising events where we raise money to support our causes, our scholarships, and to contribute money to our Tech Trek program and so forth. And those are a lot of fun. We have a garden tour, and we just, at Betty's house, we just had a wine sip and stroll where we all tasted wine, enjoyed a beautiful evening. So they're just fun events, and you can participate in those. And we also have interest groups for members, which have where you can connect with other people through whatever your favorite hobby is. Games, bridge, mahjong, movies, books, all sorts of crafts and so forth. So lots of ways to connect with the women once you get in our group. So please, if you're interested in joining, we'd love to have you. Our website is on my background. And you can just look there, and there's a whole section on membership, or find out more about us, or give me a call. I'd be happy to discuss anything with you. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're thrilled to have you here. And now, Monica, please, would you introduce our speaker for tonight?
Yes, I will be delighted to do this. I know Lucinda from a hiking group that we are both in. I know her a little bit, and I know enough to know that I believe this is going to be a wonderful evening. Lucinda Jackson is a scientist, She has graduate degrees, a master's and a PhD in plant physiology and environmental biology. Her extensive experience includes product development, global marketing, corporate financial management, environmental remediation, and project management for many projects, large and small. Lucinda has served as a director on a number of boards, including a stint as the president of the East Bay Regional Park District. She's also a mom. Along the way, she's written 2 books. The first was Just a Girl, Growing Up Female and Ambitious. And the second, Project Escape, Lessons for an Unscripted Life, which was just released last month. The Kirkus Review for Project Escape provides the following assessment. Jackson's articulate memoir is an intriguing, emotion-filled story about how things can go wrong despite the best laid plans, and about a few significant things despite adversity that went unexpectedly right. Tonight, we have the good fortune to hear Dr. Lucinda Jackson share some of her story and give us some powerful ideas or tools that might be useful in working toward our own best selves. So with that, Lucinda.
Thank you, Monica. I don't know where you got that introduction. I didn't give that to you, but that was great. Thank you. I'm going to share some slides tonight, so let me just pull those up a minute and we will get started. Takes 1 second. Okay, you'll see those slides and see me. Good. So let me just say that, one of my favorite things to do is to talk to a group of women. So I'm really happy to be here tonight. And I'd like to talk to you this evening about what I've learned about women in leadership, both from my own experience and from what I've learned from many, many other women and men in organizations for decades. And then also what I've learned in my next acts over the last 5 years since I moved on from corporate life. And you'll note that I usually say next act because I don't really like the Webster definition of retirement, which means to recede or to retreat or to go to bed, my least favorite. So next act is more futuristic and a lot more fun. So that's what you hear me using that's what I'm talking about. As a girl, I was told who I was and what I should be doing and not doing. I was told I was just a girl and I should learn to cook and I should learn to take care of a man. I was told, interestingly, by my father, who was a college professor, that girls don't need to go to college, even though he was educated himself. And I also learned at this age, 9 years old, that I was a sex object. It was the first time that I'd been harassed and assaulted by a stranger. It happened at a mall where my sister and my older sister and I had gone by ourselves for the first time. Our mom let us go there by ourselves. But I still, with these sort of, messages, negative messages I was getting, I had hopes and dreams, and I knew what I liked, and I really liked science. I put on my jeans after school every day, and I had in my back pockets, I had a jackknife and a magnifying glass, and I loved looking at ants and plants and pretending to be a scientist. I certainly didn't know how to get there. And I did, despite my father, I did go to college, and I, didn't know what I was doing. I majored in French, I majored in economics and in dance. And then I thought, wow, what happened to science? Nobody ever really told me I could major in that, but I did, even though I had many curveballs thrown at me. I experienced sexism and harassment in the academic setting. And I really wasn't encouraged by my family, my professors, or really by society. But I did graduate in science, and I found a science job finally, where I unfortunately faced more sexism and harassment. So I fled from those jobs, sort of one after the other. I switched jobs around, moved away, trying to get away from a toxic atmosphere. But I found discrimination against science in pretty much every organization I went to. So I was very lost at the time, and I suffered a lot of shame and self-blame, and I really didn't have any confidence. But then I started on a journey to become a more empowered self. And I want to talk about that just a little bit. So I kept at it, and I did become a leader and an executive. And then I started having hopes and dreams for others. But I learned a lot to get there. There's a lot of behaviors and tools that I used to find my more empowered self in my career, and then what I've been using now in my next act or my retirement. And many of these tricks and tips are in my first book, Just a Girl. And, you know, some of them, I'm sure all you guys know them, but it doesn't hurt to remember some of the stuff. You know, to really be a leader, you need to get the floor. And that's just a really, really important part of it. You maybe have to learn how to interrupt in order to get the floor when people are talking over you. You have to keep the floor once you get it. Say things like, I have 2 points I want to make. And then when you get interrupted after your first point, you can say, oh, I said I had 2 points. Let me come back to my second point. And there's lots of other tricks, like saying, instead of weasel words like, I'm not sure about this, but maybe I have an idea, you say, I propose. And so you learn to, you know, I learned a lot of things about how to talk about myself, you know, brag a little, which you have to do to talk about your successes. And the main thing I did was learn to call out sexist behavior, and especially for others, which is easier to do for others than it is for yourself. And I would say things like, John, you know, you just called Karen a girl. I don't see any boys and girls here. And that kind of thing, just to keep people on their toes about the correct way to behave. And so these kind of things, these behaviors all help me to become empowered and then a leader. So I wanted to, you know, share those with you. And a really big thing I learned about leadership, and this is what I really believe really strongly, and what from the discrimination I experienced when I was ignored and sidelined, talked over, I believe really, really strongly that a successful leader is someone who truly believes everyone is part of the solution. And by doing that and believing that, you can engage your team, you can retain people, you can get commitment and dedication from any team that you're working on. And the way you do this is to focus on being aware and inclusive, and do things like bring people on the team, not who fit the culture, but who are going to add to your culture. You know, be bold about that, listen to everybody, allow flexibility within the rules. So like if the structure doesn't fit, change the structure to make some room for people's personal needs, allow everybody to have a voice. And I'm a strong believer in helping women and minorities whenever I can. And it doesn't mean that we have to advocate for everyone. It means we should open a door for those who deserve it. And what else I believe about all this, and that I've learned, is that we're all leaders, and we can all learn to be leaders. And all of you are, and I'm so thrilled about that, because we definitely need more women leaders in all phases of life. So this is not the end of the story. While I was helping others, I wasn't fully taking care of myself. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that. I was raised, as many women are, to be a giver. So I hadn't really spent much time figuring out what I needed or what I believed. I found my career image, but I still didn't know who I really was deep down, and I still wasn't me at this point. But I had some tools I learned in my career that I started using post-career, finally paying some attention to myself. And this is a good time of life to, I call it the me time. I mean, it really is a good time of life to spend on yourself, especially after you had a long life of giving. And my proposal to you is that wherever you are in your career or in your life, that you start thinking about what I'm going to tell you now. I didn't think about this till 5 years ago. But it has to do with changing from always thinking about what you want to do to discovering who you are. And that's going to lead you to alternatives on what to do with your life, lots and lots of alternatives. So I want to cover 4 tools that have really helped me. One is the mission statement concept, core values, alternative analysis, and metrics. So first, we've all seen mission statements or vision statements from organizations. And I looked up Starbucks recently, and Starbucks' mission is to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. And that's a good one. But I propose that we all have our own personal mission statements. And I spent some time working on mine. And mine is create a remarkable next act. That's my mission statement now of what I want for my life. So think about it a little bit. You know, what's your mission statement? And next, I want to talk about the tool of finding your core values. And instead of talking about what you're going to do in your next act or even in your next job, let's try a new way of looking at it. And that's by finding your core values. And just like organizations do, like Starbucks has core values such as courage and growth and respect, achievement, things like that. And we can look at our own personal ones, and it can get a little tricky. But what I hear most from people when I ask, if people ask them, like, what do you want to do in your next act? They say, I want to travel. It's really, really common for people to say that. It's kind of gotten busted apart. The pandemic, a lot of people are really disappointed they didn't get to do that during the pandemic, and really disappointed because that was their plan. And what I'm saying is that if you really ratchet down to your core values, you'll have a plan A and B and C and D and E, and it won't be so devastating if one thing doesn't turn out. So what I'm saying, what I recommend is like asking why 5 times. Like somebody says, well, you know, what do you want to do? Well, I want to travel in my next act. Why do you want to travel? And they say it's fun. Or why is it fun? Well, it's exciting. And why is it exciting? It's interesting. Why else? It's new, it's novel. Why is it new and novel, you know, to you? And then you can kind of get down to, well, it's all these things because it satisfies my sense of curiosity or adventure, learning. And now you've come to some core values. Instead of I want to travel, it's I want curiosity, adventure, and learning in my life as guiding principles. So the core values are what you believe in and what you need. So there's other ways to find your core values. And so I'm just kind of asking you guys to think about which are yours. And I've grouped there's lists online. You can readily look at big, long lists of all these core values. I took one list and bucketed it into some groups to kind of give you some examples. So if you feel like you may have a key belief in creativity, then you can look at it more closely, like under creativity and curiosity. Maybe what you're really talking about is imagination, like you really want to use your imagination. I mean, that's a guiding principle for you. And you want to, the things you do, you want them to involve using your imagination. Or maybe your creativity is really around exploration, and exploring is what, you know, is what your core value is. Or if you're achievement oriented, maybe it's that you want to challenge, or maybe it's really not about achievement, but it's really about wanting recognition. So those are the ways you can look at this and think about, you know, what are my core values? And the next tool I want to talk about is this alternative analysis table. And what you do is you put your core value down the left side and then list the possible alternatives across the top that may satisfy your core values. And I found that it's a great and solid tool to realize you have many, many ways to meet your core values. And I've interviewed over 50 people and would like to show some real life examples here. And Mariel, one of these is yours. Somebody told me that they wanted to take a trip to the Galapagos with their grown children and grandchildren. And yes, that's a great dream, you know, to go to the Galapagos, but it may not be sustainable, right? It could be, it's a one-shot thing, and then what? Or what if some of them fight? Or, you know, it costs a lot. Does really everybody want to go? Is everybody fit to travel? So, you know, maybe that's not the only thing to think about in terms of what your core value might be. So the core value here, if you really ask why 5 times, like, why do I want to take the whole gang to Galapagos? You may come down to a core value of family. So that's the family is the core value you think about. And you could still say Galapagos, but then you use these little you have these other alternatives, lots of alternatives, and you can use these little dots to see, these yellow dots to distinguish which ones satisfy your core value or maybe satisfy your core value. So like I have friends that have talked about studying their ancestry and found that really satisfying in terms of a family core value. And another woman said she talks to her 99-year-old mom every day, which is really what her mom wanted, not really a trip to the Galapagos. And Marielle talked about senior bowling with her dad, which, as I remember, was for a night of bowling and dinner, and champagne was $5. So lots.
That was my mom, not my dad.
It was your mom. Okay. Lots and lots of alternatives. Others have said, you know, for family, I want to support my older siblings. You might want to, you know, do babysitting of your grandkids. So that's the way you can massage these do lists and make them into many, many, many alternatives and come up with other things, you know, to fill this certain need of family. A second alternative is that someone shared with me that they wanted to study Buddhism in Thailand. That was their goal. And when we sort of did a 5 why thing, it came down that she had a core value of spirituality, and then came up with lots and lots of, you know, you could do meditation, you could do yoga, you could work with the ministry, you could do religious studies. There's lots of ways that if you can't go study Buddhism in Thailand, you have lots of other things that might satisfy your core value. I've worked a lot on my own next act and my core values. And I gave my work a title. I called it Project Escape. And it was both to symbolize my moving away from corporate work and also escaping from the not completely authentic identity that I'd assumed in that world. And then I worked on my mission statement. As I mentioned, I create a remarkable next act is my mission statement. And then I hit my core values. And this is kind of hard. I mean, a lot of people don't do this because you kind of have to dig deep and you have to ask questions about yourself that maybe you don't always want to admit or, you know, answer or admit. For example, I originally had paycheck as a core value. And as I asked myself, you know, why do I feel like I want a paycheck? Because I'd had experiences like not being paid and felt not valued. And I kept going down and I said, well, really the core value is that I want to be valued. And it was kind of hard for me to admit that. I mean, that's a need I have. It made me seem kind of pathetic, but it's true. So now I recognize that. And I use that to guide myself of what kind of things that I do. And others here for me, like authentic self, as I mentioned, I hadn't been my authentic self really in my work world. And I wasn't that way for so many years. So this is really important to me. And noble purpose, I've always been idealistic. So that's important. I felt pretty constrained in corporate settings. So freedom and adventure were definitely high on my list. And then structure, you know, I'd grown up in these structured organizations and I thought structure was something I needed. So I put that on some structure. And I usually suggest about 4 to 5 core values for yourself. So again, using this tool, I put all my core values down the left side of the alternative analysis table and a bunch of different ideas that I felt might meet those core values. Like, I talked to tons of people getting these ideas, and I certainly recommend that. I read books, I researched all kinds of ideas, and I put those across the top. Volunteer, around my home, near my home. Mexico, maybe figure out some way to work in Mexico, but also have some fun there. Go on a 5-year camping trip, go travel the world, and I put the Peace Corps on there. And using my yellow dots, like which of those alternatives best met my core values, it looked like Peace Corps was the best one, and it also paid a salary, and room and flights and all that. So I'd earn some money and it wouldn't be an expense. So I did it. I talked my somewhat reluctant husband into it also. And here we are are all starry-eyed, at least I was. My husband admittedly looks a little bit skeptical. And we're in the island nation of Palau in Micronesia. And my big plan, you know, based on all my work and my research, was to make the Peace Corps my future, become a regional manager, and maybe become head of the whole thing. I had all kinds of aspirations around this. And just to introduce you to the last tool I mentioned, using a scorecard to keep track of your metrics, I used my core values as my metrics, with red, yellow, green, green success, yellow in trouble, and red failing. And you can see that the Peace Corps was pretty much a big flop. We didn't feel valued by the locals. They really didn't want us there. I wasn't my authentic self because we were so poor that I was some other version of myself dominated by poverty. That was because of the Peace Corps' miscalculation of our budget and an emphatic rule that we couldn't spend any of our own money. I had some noble purpose there, so I gave it a yellow. And I had adventures, but not really the good kind. So that's how the scorecard came out. And I also found it was really too structured. So I was not happy with that either. So that got a red. I wanted structure, but not that much. So then I went back to my alternative analysis table. So the Peace Corps was out, and then reevaluated my core values again. And you note that structure is gone. Since the Peace Corps, you know, it was just it was more like the Army. It was not a fit for me. And I replaced it with romance. So that's a new core value, because the Peace Corps was a disaster. It brought my husband and I really close together. We learned how to be really, really good partners and to have each other's back. And it really reignited the romance in our relationship. And that's something I don't want to lose. So I've got that now as my core value. So I looked at the next thing on my back to my table, and the Mexico one looked like a possibility. So we did that, and we moved to Mexico. We lived very inexpensively. We taught science in schools. We felt very valued both by the teachers and the students. We had lots of freedom. We added some adventures in, and we made time for romance. And so that got an all green on its scorecard. Very successful next act activity. And you can also use this tool for long-term planning. You don't have to do everything all at once. You can put things out in different years. So now I've got like a 5-year plan. And just for example, on the Adventure and Freedom one, you know, the work play in Mexico was really great. And in the last couple of years, we've been exploring Mexico to see more about maybe living in Mexico. So at a 5-year mark, we're making a decision about living there. So just wanted to see how you can, same with romance, you know, where we continue to work on breaking old patterns, and we continue to build memories and commonalities to keep our romance alive. And, you know, you can massage your core values. Like you notice, 2 of mine have changed over the time, but these have been, I've had these for about 4 years now, and they're holding pretty steady for me. And all this has really led me to what I'm doing now. And it hasn't been without bumps in the road, for sure. You know, I tried things that didn't work. I reevaluated and adjusted my core values. I watched my metrics. I did a lot of soul searching. But it has led me to where I am today. And, you know, I'm really happy with where I am, and I'm very connected again with my husband. So this is me now, 5 years after moving on from corporate life, and I'm a bunch of things now. I'm still got kind of a corporate side, but I've got, you know, I'm doing some teaching. I have a lot of fun. I support causes. I keep in shape. I mean, stuff that I really care about. And, my conclusion about all this is that the first part I was talking about, like leadership is thinking about others, like really embracing and championing inclusion, which I learned as an executive for many years. But leadership also includes thinking about yourself. And that's what I've been learning about more recently in my next act. you are a better leader if you know yourself. I really believe that, if you know your core values and what your guiding principles are. So Monica mentioned my 2 books I've written. So there's more information about all this in these books. If you're interested, the Just a Girl, Growing Up Female and Ambitious is about my career journey to empowerment after decades of sexism and harassment. And the Project Escape, Lessons for an Unscripted Life, is more about moving on from career and you know, finding your next act and finding your core values. Working on ego and relationships and identity and purpose and things like that. So when you know, the most common question you get when you're, you know, either changing jobs or whether you're going into retirement or your next act, people say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do next? And it kind of puts you on the spot, because it puts you in a position of, well, I'm going to play golf, or I'm going to remodel a house, or you get stuck with sort of a do list. And all these things don't really dig deep enough. So, you know, what I'm saying here is that, you know, all that isn't really the stuff of a satisfying life, but, you know, do they really get at your core values? And encouraging you to get at your core values. And, you know, so next time somebody asks you, like, well, what are you going to do next? Or what are you doing in your retirement? You can say, well, one thing that's important to me is, and then mention one of your core values, like humor or something. And so I'm doing stand-up comedy or whatever. And you found this in your next act, and it was intentional and it was planned because you know who you are. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. And at this point, I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear any core values that might have come up in your thinking, like what are your core values, or even a mission statement, if you can get to that, of yourselves. And I'm happy to answer any kind of questions that you have.
So Lucinda, there's a question in the chat for you.
Okay.
It says, you look so young. At what age did you experience the major acts that you've spoken about?
At what age did I experience the major acts?
Uh-huh. And I guess
What do you mean by that?
the change, maybe the change from your career to retirement.
Okay, well, different acts, and I guess in starting in the, I really didn't, I don't think I really became empowered in my career till I was in my 50s, personally. Mm-hmm. And I think in that kept developing in my 60s, and then I'm 70 now. And so the last 5 years, well, I retired when I was 66. And these last few years are the years that I've been, you know, really working on myself and this core value thing to make this time of life just the best that it can be. And thank you for telling me I look young. I appreciate that.
Monica, do you see the raised hand?
Hi, it's Linda Brown.
Hi.
I didn't quite get it, Lucinda. Good to see you, by the way. Did you say you were with the Peace Corps, or you got with them and then found the structure was too much? And if you were with them, did you get out early, and how did you handle that?
Yes. So it was this Peace Corps thing was it's a senior Peace Corps, and they have 1-year assignments. So they look really cool on paper, really, really cool. And so, you know, we went, I went there, and we were supposed to be there for a year, but because of everything, the way it was going, it actually turned out that Micronesia was shutting down, and we didn't know that, but that explained a lot of the disorganization and the mess that it had been there for 60 years. And we were the last group of Peace Corps volunteers to be there. Now there's no more. So we stayed for 4 months, and actually we were one of the last ones to stay. A lot of people bagged out a lot earlier than we did, but we're not quitters, so we really stuck with it. And we got out by, you can resign from the Peace Corps. If you resign, you don't get, at the end of a Peace Corps service, you get $500, and you don't get your $500 if you quit early.
Did you want to ask a follow-up, Linda? Or I guess not. Okay.
I don't. I will mention I'm a former member of AAUW, and Lucinda and I work together, or work for the same Fortune 500 company, and I love her book, Just a Girl.
Thanks, Linda.
Terrific. Well, Chris Ritter has a question. May I read it, Chris? It is, did you have similar core values to your husband since he went into the Peace Corps and to Mexico with you? And how did you coordinate your plans?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Another tool I didn't mention that I use is called stakeholder analysis, and really thinking about who your stakeholders were. And of course, my husband was a major stakeholder in this idea that I had for my next act. And as part of stakeholder analysis, you look at like how important that stakeholder is. And then if they come up high, like they're an important stakeholder, you look at what you need to do to persuade them. And so I looked at, obviously he was a key factor because I could have gone by myself, but I wanted him to go with me. And I talked him into it by looking some of his core values, which he loves adventure. And I said, this would be a fabulous adventure. It'd be just so exciting. And he's a scuba diver, and it happens to be the one of the primo scuba diving places in the world. So that kind of hit one of his core values. And the other one of his core values is about creativity and accomplishment. And I found us both Peace Corps assignments. So I found his Peace Corps assignment to roboticize a laboratory at the only hospital in the country. And that intrigued him tremendously. So I kind of used the same strategy I used on myself to talk him into it. It was tough that it didn't meet the expectations that I had set up for us. And I felt pretty guilty about that for a while. But we're fine now.
So we have a question from Zana.
Yes, hi, this is Jana. Yes, hi Lucinda. So happy
Hi.
to see you.
Hi, Shauna.
Many years. Yeah, but great to see you and know that you're active and doing things left and right, being true you. I have a question. I'm maybe 10 or 15 years from my normal retirement age, and I'm still thinking, because a lot of people are talking now about early retirement, and I'm wondering if you ever thought, looking back, okay, I wish I maybe retired not at 60 plus, but at 50 plus. What do you think? What would you recommend to others who are thinking about that, who is thinking about next stage and probably trying to weigh in, okay, where's the value in the corporate world right now, or value in finding yourself what's true and congruent to your own identity. So do you have those regrets? Do you wish you could go earlier to retire, or no regrets? And what would you recommend?
Despite everything, I really loved working. And so I don't regret that I stayed when I did. And you do have to think about money. So if you don't have to think about money, then sure, why not? But, I was still thinking about money. And I have found, though, that retirement does not cost as much as people think it might. Like what I've been doing, the Peace Corps, going to Mexico, I mean, it's cheap, really. It's not expensive. And a lot of the stuff that really meets my core values, like helping kids and teaching, and it's not expensive. And so you don't have to have as much money as you think. So if you kind of look at your finances and say, yeah, that's okay, um, yeah, I do it whenever you can. It's a great
Thank
time
you.
of life, but you know, so is career. So is career.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody got a core value that they could share with us?
Well, I'm intrigued by how what you called massaged the core values. And I acknowledge, and I think it's really cool that your core values can change. That what I thought when I was 40 was one thing, and what I feel at 70 is very different in terms of core values. And part of that, as a privileged white woman, is that I think as we learn what those core values are at different stages in our lives, and we have privilege, and we have, you know, fixed benefits and retirement and all those kinds of things, that shapes, unfortunately, in a way, our values as we get older. And I think it also then changes what we do, because I loved also what you said about not letting what we do determine what we believe. I think if we really examine what we believe and our values are, then that's what determines what we'll do in the next act. So I love that, and I love the thinking behind it, but I do think that our core values really change, and I'd be interested in what other people think.
But Betty, do you have one now? What's a core value you have right now?
Well, I think family at one point was key as my kids were coming up. And now it's family again as my husband and I get older, you know, and my sibling is sick and things like that. So family has reemerged as a really high value. And Deborah Wexler mentions family also. She also says productive work, creativity, and spiritual foundation are some core values of hers.
Those are beautiful. Yeah, and we go in cycles in life. Yeah.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You know, my core values, of course, the family was always level, was always there, never questioning that. But I felt that finding my own passion would make me a better person and a happier person without depending on anybody else in my life. And that includes family. And that will carry through your whole life if you find your passion. And what I think what changed the most for me is my passion is the same, but I'm smarter how to use it. But giving to other people with my passion has been the highlight of the transgression in my life as I get older, and the importance of it. More important, you know, when I was younger, was more about me, not realizing what I could do for others, which is the gift of life, is to give. So, but if you can find out at an early age what you like, and then you kind of massage it and build on it, and you know, educate yourself and connect, make an alumni, and you know, balance that with family, because and the people that you come in contact with that you might be able to help. You know, could be just a girlfriend or someone you don't know. So
Yeah,
I'm feeling really good about that, because I'm stronger today than I was yesterday, because my core value has enlarged as a giver rather than a taker. Yeah.
Awesome, Trish.
Yeah, that is
Let me
awesome.
let me add from Charmin Goring.
But can I bring up one point but hold
Sure.
that one just a second. What Trish just mentioned, I think is really important about, you know, you picked a core value that was yours, and didn't depend on a lot of other people. And
Yeah.
I think that's advisable to have some of those, because I do see a lot of people pick like family or grandchildren as something they want to do in their retirement. And I've also seen that not work out, because I get back to my stakeholder analysis. There's other stakeholders, like your family may not want to be spending that much time with you, or they may not want you to take care of the grandkids. So if that's your only plan, you're putting yourself in a little bit of a
Big problem.
trouble.
No, and the family doesn't necessarily like what you're doing or appreciate it or even want to talk about it. I mean, my life is pretty much wrapped around the arts, and my family hardly asks a question like, how was your last exhibition, or what are you doing? But I don't depend on that.
Yeah.
And when one says that they're bored, I think that's a scary thing, because there's too much out there to be bored. If you're healthy.
Yeah.
I know your health can destroy everything if it's not well. But I mean, boredom, wow. It's like oxygen in the world. There's so much. So
Well,
it's
a
attitude,
great
right?
thing to keep in mind, just who else who else are in your plans for these core values and your alternatives. So Betty, you were going to say something, Charmin?
Yes, Charmin Goring. Her, it sounds like her core values involved engaging and learning about different cultures, continued learning, helping others, much based on, very much like Trish was saying.
Oh, I like those, Charmin, because you said engaging and learning about different cultures. So you didn't just say, I want to travel to different countries. And because travel to different countries could be one way to do that, but there could be lots of other ways to engage and learn about different cultures, through reading or joining groups that have different cultures in them, or so many things. So good ones, really good. Hi, I see you there now.
I'm a special education teacher in Sacramento, and I have several Afghani students. So I've been trying to learn more about their culture and learning some Dari so I can speak to their family and to the children. And so it's been really interesting to, it's so very different from our culture here. But it's been very valuable, and it's been really helpful to make a nice connection with the families in our school. They're coming from a place with their children who have severe needs, never ever had any opportunities, never even saw doctors. One of my students didn't even know, the family didn't know she had a seizure disorder. And so they come here and we have so many resources for them, and they're overwhelmed. So it's really nice for them to have, a friendly face and someone who's interested in learning about them and not just pushing our culture on them. So it's been very rewarding to do that.
Thank you for sharing those and that story. That's really great. It's really great. And Linda, did you have your hand up?
I
Jimerson?
don't. No,
Yeah.
I don't. How about Linda?
Oh, Linda Jimerson. Oh, you did, I thought.
Let's see. I think if the last 2 years, or how long has it been? 3 years, 4 years, seems like a long time, hasn't been an impetus to get us to think about what's the most important thing, or sort of, compress our personal goals, our feelings, our priorities into something that's meaningful for us, then, we've missed the great benefit of the last couple of years. So it's helped. That's been a positive for me, certainly. And I think everybody.
Yeah, the pandemic has really shooken us all up, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, actually, that's what I did during the pandemic, was write that second book, Project Escape, where I really delved into my, who I am and what I believe and who I want to be, and learn about letting go of things so I can.
Was it more crystallized?
Yeah.
Because of,
Yeah, I'm sure the atmosphere helped.
yeah.
Yeah, nice comment. Thank you. Yeah. Anything else anybody wants to tell us or teach us, or?
I'd like to add one more thing.
Hey,
if I
Trish.
may. I think when you have to find people that speak your language, that are interested, or you're interested in them. You can't depend on your immediate connections, be it your husband or anyone. But you find people that that you can listen to and just, oh my God, this light goes off. You know, you say, wow, how awesome they are. Or, you know, knowing what you love to do. Do you love to go to the ballet? Then just go to it. Things like that. I mean, knowing yourself, and then having different friends for different reasons, you know, with less expectation on one. I mean, I have friends that fit different needs, and I don't expect the ones that I'm, you know, living with or, you know, related to even meet those needs. It's impossible.
I think that's really important what you're saying, because I did a session like this a few weeks ago, and one of the audience members said that they, you know, I could do all this stuff because I had a partner, and they don't have a partner. And I wanted to clarify that all this stuff I'm doing, I mean, you know, like I said, I had to talk my husband into a lot of this stuff, but I would have done it without him if he didn't want to do it. And I've also thought, I mean, I try to stick with my own stuff again, like it's, you can do this without a partner. You don't have to have that. And I really believe that when, just like you said, Trish, you're talking about yourself, what's satisfying to you. And my husband and I have different core values. So I'm not, believe me, I'm not doing everything with him. I mean, I do a lot of stuff on my own also that he has no interest in. But those are my interests, and they make me satisfied. Yeah. And I'm encouraging him to, you know, do that for himself. We are definitely not joined at the hip and don't have to, you know, do everything together.
Right. I think
Mariel, do you have your hand up?
I wanted to bring something new to the conversation, and I don't go through writing down the analysis like Lucinda does. But as she was talking, I think I just naturally do a prioritization and do things that I'm attracted to or meet my values. But the one challenge I have is overextending myself because I have such a broad range of interests. I'm a person that has to be busy all the time. And so my challenge is to not overcommit to things that meet my values and that I would love to do.
Well, Mariel, that's a great point.
Say no to things, and then also just sort of a prioritization, like, okay, I'm only going to do these many big trips a year, or I can only commit to being a member or an active member of 2 organizations, not all the ones I belong to. And so I'm sort of like chant to cover everything. Sometimes I'm doing something and then I have to drop it so I can go do something else.
Well, you know, I use this core value thing to make myself not do too many things. So that's why I only have 4 or 5. You may have too many core values. And so 4 or 5,
well, no, they're all the same. They're all the same. It's taking your talents and giving to the community is the one where I cycle through. So I do some of it for a while, and then you won't see me because I'm off doing something else in that same value.
Huh. So maybe you need more really personal core values, because like I find myself, I use it to say no to things. Like if somebody asks me, you know, there's a million opportunities at this stage of life. And people are always asking all of you, I'm sure, to, you know, help with things. And it's easy to say yes, but I look at my core values and I say, wait, you know, one thing I want like is adventure and freedom. And if I agree to this particular thing, it's not new, it's not exciting. I've done it a lot of times before. And part of what I want to do in this next act is do things I've never done before.
Right. And that's the other reason I cycle through things. Like I've been there, done that, I do something else.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. But I have found it really useful to say no. And I found myself recently in a situation, and then I was going, I looked at like, why am I doing this? And I went back, it wasn't very satisfying. I went back and looked, and it didn't meet really any of my core values. And I thought, well, no wonder. And so I quit. And that's okay. And Robin says, I see, hi, Robin. I greatly appreciate your message of choosing self-determination by identifying one's own core values. still thinking about mine, and the tool of the matrix to reevaluate progress. Why do you like that? What do you like about the choosing self-determination?
Hi there. So having now read your book and really enjoyed every word, and you are a wonderful writer.
Thank you.
I think very much like Marielle, I find things that interest me for a while, but without really thinking why and thinking it through, I'll reject those. And I realize now that I haven't identified what pieces of those are the parts that are satisfying and are my core values, because I haven't truly identified them. Although I find a lot of overlap with your personal core values, but I need to dig in a little deeper on the whys for sure.
Good. I'm interested to hear what you come up with. Okay, anything else, last minute things, or ready to wrap it up? Betty or Chris or Monica?
I don't see any in the chat. I do have a sort of follow up to both Mariel and Robin, and it's my problem, which many of you know, and that is enjoying all the things that I do that I feel are connected to my core values. You know, and the problem is then, you know, trying to decide how you can spend your energy. And my rationale, which is purely rationale, is that I have physical health and physical energy to do all this stuff. But I know I'm making mistakes, and I know I'm not giving the best of me to some of these things, but I really don't want to leave these things because they meet my core values and I still have the energy to do it. But there's a dilemma in that, because I do overextend. I overextend and I feel valued, and all those things that you meet, the things that I do meet my core values. It's just that I've got the wrong kind of fit with so many things that I want to do, and I don't want to miss anything. And I think maybe that's my evaluation of aging, is that, you know, now's the time. I got to do this because I may not be able to do it in 5 or 10 years, you know. So I hear what you're saying, Marielle, and it's not as easy as matching our core values, because the stuff that I do, they do meet my core values and they make me feel great. It's just too much.
You have to prioritize and learn to say no and have some me time where you just unscheduled me time.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I
Here,
like what
Deborah.
what Deborah said. Read that, Betty.
Yeah, Deborah,
very
great
interesting.
comment. I saw that.
Deborah, you're wise as usual. She says, if you use up all your energy, you sacrifice your joy. Well, and I think this group tonight is a group of overextenders. Yeah. Truly.
So true. So true. I've identified with so many of those comments.
Yeah, so think about some of the personal ones. I mean, like I put romance on, you know, so that narrows down stuff that's going to take me away from spending any time with my husband. Is I go, okay, well, I'm making a choice here, you know, is that what I want to do? So just an idea, might put in some really personal ones that can help you limit yourself.
Here's another comment from Heather Truro. Thank you so much, Lucinda. It's very enlightening and valuable. What an amazing group of women this is. It was reassuring to see so many women of a certain age pursuing their best lives.
Wonderful comment. I agree. This is a wonderful time of life. I'm the happiest I've ever been.
As people have asked me, well, what did you do in retirement? Are you kidding? I'm free. I could do what I want to do. I was so excited. Didn't have to get up and work somebody else's agenda all day. Do what I wanted to do.
You know,
Yeah, you know,
my mission statement helps me too, like, you know, create a remarkable next act. So when I'm doing something and it's not particularly remarkable, I say, okay, that's taking up a lot of my time, but my goal is to, you know, keep this, to me, remarkable means, you know, super interesting and fun and all the stuff I like. And so that's another way that I've kind of narrowed stuff down, because you can end up doing a lot of stuff that's not that remarkable.
Right. Marion Bliss, your screen.
It's just a matter of prioritizing. You know, you can have all these core values and somehow you have to figure out which one is going to give you the benefit that you're looking for, or give someone else the benefit that you're, you know, the project you're working on. Because I have a hard time prioritizing. I know it's a big problem. And I have more things to do than I have time to do it. But,
Well, that made me think maybe we need to prioritize our core values.
yeah, exactly. I think that's right.
Give them weights, you know, weighted.
Yeah, I was taken by the fact that your core values were all met by the Peace Corps. Those core values were met by the Peace Corps. And I'm wondering how many of the things that I do or would propose to do would have all those yellow buttons under one item. Yeah.
But then it didn't turn out to satisfy all my core values.
Yeah, so then you
Hence the
did the
scorecard.
cool thing. Yeah, you massage the values. Norma Stephenson, did you have something you wanted to ask?
No, I'm throwing my puppy's toy. That's one of my energies, but he does give me joy.
That's funny.
What are you thinking, ladies? Raise your hand if you feel like you've overextended.
I always.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Cinda, this was just wonderful. Just
Thank
a wonderful presentation and teaching us about the matrix and the tool that you used in work and now in this new stage. It's terrific.
Great. Thanks for having me. That was fun. I love hearing your ideas, everybody's ideas, and thanks for sharing your core values. And I love the discussion.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for organization. And I just want to remind everybody, I don't know whether you actually have heard about this, but for our members, we're having a party in June. June 16th. You're all invited to come to Deborah's backyard. So we're going to be COVID, cautious. And we're going to have a membership appreciation and membership engagement party. So we can get you a little more extended. It's going to be a fun time to celebrate what we've accomplished this year. And we'll have wine, we'll have hors d'oeuvres, and it'll be 5 to 7:30. And we're going to install our new board members. I've talked to many of you actually about what you'd like to do next year. And so that's a new board coming in. We're going to install them and we're going to bid a fond farewell to our outgoing board members. And we're going to give some awards to people for their contributions and their work during the year. So it'll just be really a fun celebration. And I really encourage you to come June. You'll get an email, probably Deborah, the next few days about this. And it's already on the website. So if you go check there, you can see all the details. But it's 5 to 7 on June 16th.
And we have quite a few non-members here this evening. So if you're interested in membership, go to the website that's right over Chris Ritter's head right now, right on the back of her screen.
If you want to come to our party, call me and we'll get you in.
And you're welcome.
Meet some of us, see who we are, see if you want to, see if we're your core value.
Terrific. So that's June 16th, right, Chris? Mm-hmm. See you then. And thank you all. And mainly thank you, Lucinda, for great conversation and great wisdom and techniques and strategies. We all like that, right? We need to do something. And so making our mission plan and our core values identification will be really cool. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Good job,
Bye.
Lucinda.